video games. Recently, I was playing a fighting game and I was astonished by the enjoyment it brought me seeing all the waifus and husbandos. It makes the game so much more fun and it doesn't take anything away from kicking the shit out of your friends. So, what happened, especially to the female form in video games? Why did it happen? And will it ever end? These are the questions I'm going to ask myself, and hopefully, we can find some interesting and new points to add to the conversation. No matter how much you enjoy modern art, it would look rather strange if you were to see a human lady that looks like a Picasso. Even though it would be interesting, it wouldn't feel nice to look at if that was somebody's face. You would feel something is a little bit off. The fact that piquing someone's interest can be achieved by big butts and small waists is just a fact that cannot be changed by surgically infusing a bunch of realistic concepts into it. Unfortunately, the violence in video games is real. It has become a political fighting ground, a fight between the companies and the player base. The companies are the ones they hired to sucker punch the bigots, also known as us, their fans, out of the arena. How do politics make the game better? Games are not made to be better, they are made to make money. That much is painfully obvious lately. That is where they should be putting their resources. Develop ways of hiding this intent a bit better. Companies have been boasting inclusive products and positive work culture, trying to insert diversity into everything, forgetting about the diversity that games have always brought to us just by the virtue of trying to be interesting, surprising, and grabbing our attention. The common sense and the propaganda have once again strayed far from the intent of original critiques of overly sexualized female portrayals. The overcorrection is a natural but unnecessary reaction to a few comments. If you take those comments and an uninspired and innovation hungry studio, it might look like you have found your North Star. However, it was never about eroticism, just as it was never about violence. That's not what makes the games bad. Who among us is perfect? How can we ever compare to the world of video games? You'd have to be 2D as I am to compete. Women have been comparing themselves to the wrong idols. The beauty queen, the anime girl, the kick-ass villain. But that is not a problem other people can solve for you. Idols are there to inspire you and to give you something to aim towards. We are in a dangerous territory where the idols became worse than the people they are representing. It is important that the reality we strive towards is better than the one we are experiencing right now. People like to see an avatar of themselves in the media, but only up to the point of when they represent your character in a bad light or the wrong way. That is what has happened. I don't really mind characters being ugly if it has its reasons. Even though we all preferred looking at a nice pair of cheeks, if it makes sense for the story, I want inclusivity to include all the characterizations that the story requires. No more, no less. With the characters being too real, the facts of who they are gets buried deeper into almost imperceptible depths. Just imagine if Lion King was made with real animals. They would lose all of their expressions. Alright. Like with Mufasa, what did they do? Well, anyway, with bad characterization and unassuming looks, the story becomes less interesting. Subverting expectations is not always a good thing, especially if you expect something good is supposed to come out and something like this comes out. Movies are trying to take reality and make it look more like fiction, And games are taking fiction and trying to make it into a representation of reality. Art imitates life, and that has to be a concept to base the games upon. But then it improves upon the reality so that it makes reality more bearable. The tides are changing, just like in fashion, art, or history. Everything oscillates. If we look at the trend, especially in art history, we might even be able to predict what we get next. The video game industry is very young. As we have seen on my History of Gaming stream, less than 80 years have passed from when the first game of tic-tac-toe was played on a gigantic machine. But art itself has been through a similar, slightly slower development. From the first hands imprinted on a cave wall to conceptual art of today, we see a few periods repeat themselves. It is the representational to abstract to non-representational art pipeline. But even more than art, I think it is fit to compare game development to human fashion history. We always see periods or areas of puritanical modesty in dressing, for example, Spanish Protestants in Middle Ages, followed by a period of more relaxed and feminine or even comically enhanced feminine forms. The fact is, you can always tell when the tides are going to turn. When the masses can copy, however poorly, the look of the rich, they no longer want it. When the studios that have the talent get copied by those who do not possess competent talent, they become a poor fake of the high-end idea, concept, someone not necessarily richer but more inventive has had success with. So those that cannot keep their hand on the pulse or the vibe lag behind and they become hated for the unsuccessful, less original and badly researched slop they produce. However, if a brand such as Ubisoft wants to, they will be able to get people excited for the next one. In my eyes, Ubisoft is a fashion victim. In design, good design, there is an interesting rule that form follows function. That means you first have to think of what the product needs to do, and that dictates how it will look. If you focus on looks first, you are going to end up with a kitschy and unpractical object. Or a female sumo wrestler and a black samurai. There is always something better that you can play. Older games, games from Japanese or Chinese developers. I was honestly pleasantly surprised when I played Marvel Rivals. It was very exciting, dynamic, and fun, like Overwatch, but more enjoyable. In the meantime, we can speculate that this real apocalypse will soon end, because if these kinds of titles flop, the company has to follow the money. And if the money is not in the diverse cast with particular skin colors or sexual orientation, maybe they just need a story that makes sense to people. Something that we will find meaningful and worthwhile. In the end, this doesn't matter that much, and we all know it. Maybe we should all just go touch some grass. But it is just something interesting to lose our collective minds on or yap about. As long as there will be opportunity for talent to excel, there will be hope. Maybe not everywhere, not all the time, but it will be there. It will come. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know what you think, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye. Mwah.